A bit of a change of pace, and the heart and soul of rugby league, we know, is grassroots footy, bush footy. There's been a few articles around recently that have said that's in trouble. If it is, we are all stuffed. I want to open it up to the panel. Brad Fittler, you work for New South Wales Rugby League. You're the Blues Origin coach. Is bush footy in New South Wales and across Australia in trouble?
Well, I just found it very interesting, some of the comments that were made over the last week since the article from Noel Khalil about Warrianda losing their A-grade side. I just found it very interesting, the sort of comments. I think it became very emotional, and a lot of it, there weren't much fact involved in what they were talking about. Now, I think Michael Chalmers was stating that New South Wales Rugby League's total focus now is State of Origin. They've taken their eyes off the country rugby league. Now, the person who's the head of rugby league at the New South Wales Rugby League is from the country. That's Bert Lowry. The person that's head of competitions in New South Wales, Peter Clark, he's from the country. 5 people out of the 9 that are on the board for New South Wales Rugby League are all from the country. So I think Michael Chalmers isn't quite right. What's happened since 2019 when the Country Rugby League came together with the New South Wales Rugby League, obviously COVID had a lot to do with trying to progress rugby league in those areas. Some of the other changes also is that, obviously money has been stripped throughout the game and have also lost a lot of staff. But in that time, from 2001 to back then, our numbers have never been better. 103,197 people are playing our game to date, and that's gone up in men and women as well, and that's since 2015. I think it's important that we just show the real facts and take the emotion out of some of the journalism that's going on at the moment.
Well, I'm reading. Look, I must admit, I haven't been out to the country areas maybe the way they should have been, but I come from Wagga, and I know that I played in a group competition down there, Group 9, that had an abundance of teams from Tumut to Harden to Gundagai to all. I know that that's not the case down there now, and I keep reading about clubs that are folding in country towns and country areas, and that certainly gives the impression that rugby league is in trouble.
Totally agree with you, mate. I grew up in Ashcroft where there were 10 teams within 5 kilometres of each other, and now I think there's one at best. So I think what happens is dynamics change. I think there's loading of clubs, so some clubs fold because a lot of players will go to an area that's become prosperous, and obviously financials have a lot to do with what goes on out in the bush, because you just go through some towns and there's just very little activity there for whatever reason. And, for Warrianda, it's very interesting because when I went out there last year, we go on our motorbike ride, we went to Warrianda and we had the kids in a clinic. There was hundreds of kids and it was a fantastic event. I'm not sure why the community and their small business haven't supported their rugby league team. Maybe you'd have to ask the people at Warrianda that.
So you're saying that it's not necessarily neglect when it comes to country rugby league, it's more some social aspects out.
I think in a lot of situations, Pete, and also, you know what, rugby league, I think players these days too, especially when they get to their mid-20s, in the old days, you used to have a day off after a game of rugby league maybe. The game's tough. Maybe you don't have the luxury of being able to do that at the moment, and also travel's a big thing, time's a big thing, having parents being able to set up grounds where you know firsthand, coming from Gerringong.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I mean, the most heartening aspect of all of this is that we've seen year-on-year growth in participation at grassroots level. When you look at the women's game, 23.5% increase from 2019 to this year. So that's cutting out the COVID year because of everything that happened. But for the last 6 or 7 years, there's been double-figure growth in the women's game. And the men's game has continued to grow as well. It could just be that people are moving further out of town. They're moving into different areas. They're still participating in the game. They're still volunteering. They're still either playing, administering. There's so many other aspects to it than just playing the game. And out in the country, it is still alive and well. I was in Wagga Wagga this week, and the amount of interest in the NRL game itself was fantastic. And the amount of junior clubs, I met with 30 or 40 junior coaches while I was there. And, it's wonderful to see what they're doing.
Now, there's one action that's taken place over the next month. All the development officers from the NRL will now join the New South Wales Rugby League, so they'll all be under one banner. So that's one way of improving the streamlining of the way we take the game to the people and the way we help. So there are actions being made, but just want to make sure that we get the facts.
Absolutely.
And take away the emotion a little bit.
You can understand why there is emotion because it means a lot to people, but you've got to have the facts there as well.
Have the fact.